Vanakkam. Today, I am going to talk about another very interesting topic in FEMA, that is FEMA 1999, that is borrowings and lending in foreign currency. That's a very, very important thing. Normally, we are taking care of borrowing and lending in Indian rupee or Indian currency, but now I am going to discuss about the highlights of the borrowing and lending in foreign currency. And here, before going to the presentation, I want to say my disclaimer. The views expressed in this presentation is my view. For clear understanding of the matters, please refer FEMA 1999. I am not responsible for any wrong interpretation. With this disclaimer, I am presenting the subject for your easy understanding. Please refer FEMA so that you can easily understand the matters that are related to borrowing and lending in foreign currency. Who can borrow and lend in foreign currency? This is a very, very important thing. Who can borrow in foreign currency? Who can lend in the foreign currency? The first person is the authorized dealer, and the other person is other than the authorized dealer. They can borrow, they can lend in foreign currency because nobody is allowed to lend or borrow in foreign currency unless until they are approved by the Reserve Bank of India. And what is meant by foreign currency? Foreign currency means any currency other than Indian currency is called as foreign currency. A very, very simple definition. It's a meaning that is any currency other than the Indian currency is called as foreign currency. Now, I'm going to start with the borrowing in foreign currency by authorized dealer. There is another concept, borrowing in foreign currency by other person other than the authorized dealer. First, we are going to discuss or see about the borrowing in foreign currency by the authorized dealer. So the authorized dealer in India or its branches outside India can borrow foreign currency. Authorized dealer who are in India, normally authorized dealers are appointed or their licenses have been recognized by Reserve Bank of India. Normally it is banks. They are allowed to do the foreign currency transactions. So authorized dealers, they can get the money. They can borrow the money in foreign currency, even if they are situated inside within India, or if they can borrow from outside India, from the branches that they are located outside India. So this is used for some specified circumstances subject to specified conditions. And external commercial borrowing, ECB means external commercial borrowing, is one circumstance which can be done as per the RBI directive. So ECB can, that is authorized dealers, whether they are located within India or from the branches located outside India, they can borrow in foreign currency, and one of the mode is external commercial borrowing. There is a limit to borrow. There is a limit to borrow in foreign currency by the authorized dealers. The aggregate amount of borrowing of all branches of authorized dealer from all permitted sources shall be 100% of unimpaired Tier 1 capital or such other limit as decided by RBI from time to time or 10 million US dollars, whichever is higher, whichever is more, whichever is higher. To that extent, they can borrow the money from the in foreign currency from outside India. So that means even if it is works out to 8 million, so up to maximum $10 million US dollars, you can borrow in foreign currency. It's only a maximum. So even if the limit Tier 2, that is 100% of Tier 2 capital is say 70 crores, $70 million, then the authorized dealer, they can go and borrow to that extent. Now, borrow outside India, branches of authorized dealer. So suppose if the authorized dealers, they are having branches outside India, they are also permitted to borrow from outside India. So this they can borrow in the normal course of business, normal banking business. The branches of authorized dealers which are situated outside India, they can borrow in normal courses subject to the RBI guidelines or RBI directives. That extent they can borrow, and the regulatory authority of the country where the branch is situated. So there they have to follow two rules and regulations or directions or guidelines. One is prepared by, one is directed by Reserve Bank of India. Second one is the regulatory authority of the country. Suppose if they are the branch is located in UK, What is the rules and regulations of that UK? That regulatory authority rules the authorized dealer, they have to borrow, they have to follow, then only they are permitted to borrow in foreign currency outside India. Next one is, what is the purpose of borrowing? One is, authorized dealers from by a bank which is situated outside India, they can borrow. The purpose is to grant pre-shipment or post-shipment credit to his exporter constituent India. Suppose if the authorized dealer who is situated in India, he wants to give some packing credit loan or bill discounting loan, they are permitted to give the money in foreign currency. So the purpose of borrower is only to grant pre-shipment credit or post-shipment credit. Then authorized dealer is also permitted to raise external commercial borrowings outside India as per Foreign Exchange Management Borrowing and Lending Regulation of 2018. Very, very simple, sir. The borrowing can be done only for the purpose of exports from India. Suppose if the borrower, the customer of a bank he wants to have some packing credit loan or post-shipment credit, then authorized dealer, they can sanction the loan back. This is subject to RBI directives, and they can borrow in, that is authorized dealer can also borrow from outside India so that they can give finance to the persons constitution, that is persons of India as a loan. And now, so far we have seen the borrower. Now we are giving lending. Now we are giving lending. Authorized dealers, they are giving lending. That is, authorized dealer in India or his branch outside India may lend in foreign currency or foreign entity. So that means the authorized dealers can give the lending not only to the units situated in India, for the units situated outside in India also they can give, as well as to the foreign entity also they can give, but provided the Indian entity has made a direct investment in that foreign entity. That means that foreign entity should have got a close relationship with the Indian entity. So Indian entity, they have to go and make the investment in that country. So that is permitted. Next, foreign branches of Indian bank can extend foreign exchange rules in normal course of business. Normal course of business is just like regular banking business, they can lend. Authorized dealers are permitted to lend. Even in the foreign branches also, they can give the lending. Next one is, loans can be extended by branch outside India in normal course of banking. So it's a very, very simple. In India also it's permitted. If the branches which are situated outside India, they can lend in foreign currency, just like as a regular business, that is a normal banking business, they can lend even though the branches are situated outside India. If they want to lend to foreign entity, it is permitted, provided the Indian entity should have some investment in that foreign entity. So that is permitted. Next one is, authorized dealer can lend in foreign exchange or Indian rupee to its constituents. Constituents means customers to meet that foreign exchange requirement. So the authorized dealer can either lend in foreign currency, foreign exchange, or can lend in Indian rupee also. Next one is, the credit facilities can be sanctioned to Indian entity wholly and owned subsidiary of abroad and joint venture abroad. So credit facilities can also be sanctioned to Indian entity. If they are having some business connections abroad, the authorized dealer can sanction the loan. And constituents maintaining resident foreign currency account, if the constituents means, let us say customers of the bank or customers of the authorized dealers, if they are having RFC account, then loans can be granted to that type of customers also by the authorized dealer or foreign currency. On the basis of security of NRE and FCNRB deposits on the accounts, the authorized dealers or its branches outside India also can extend the loan. So authorized dealer or its branches outside India. So authorized dealers in India also they can lend. Authorized dealer, if they are having branches outside India also, they can lend the money on the basis of security of NRE and FCNRB. And even they can have loans between authorized dealer to authorized dealer. So authorized dealer, not only they lend only to the customers, authorized dealers, they can lend money in between two authorized dealers. So one authorized dealer can extend the foreign currency loan to another authorized dealer. Now, borrowings in foreign currency other than the authorized dealer. So far we have seen the borrowings by borrowings and lending by the authorized dealers. Now we are going to see the borrowings in foreign currency by person other than the authorized dealers. That is, if the eligible resident entities can raise ECB can raise external commercial borrowing from outside India. And importers also can raise the trade credit for import of capital and non-capital goods. It is not only the authorized dealers they can borrow, even the resident entities also they are permitted to raise the funds. Now, how to that is the purpose of borrowing is by the persons resident in India, they can borrow the loan by way of loan or OD or any other credit facility that is permitted and from a bank situated outside India. Not only in India, from a bank situated outside India also they can do it. And the purpose is to execute turnkey projects or civil concessions or in connection with export on deferred payment terms. For that purpose, they can borrow the money in India. That is, this can be done by a person other than the authorized dealers. So now borrowing for imports is also allowed. So if anybody wants to import the goods into India, he can avail foreign exchange, foreign currency credit for a period not exceeding 6 months. And if the overseas supplier, if he extends a period, then that is also permitted. So to import the goods from abroad also, a person can borrow. And resident individual borrowing. That is, a resident individual in India, he can also be allowed to borrow in foreign currency. That is, he can borrow a sum of 250,000 US dollars or its equivalent. To that extent, he can borrow. It should be from a close relative outside India. Close relative outside India, he can borrow. And the minimum maturity period of the loan is 1 year. So the period of the loan is 1 year. So up to the extent of 250,000 US dollars, the minimum that an individual can borrow from the close relative outside India. And the period is 1 year, and the interest is only a free interest-free loan. You can borrow outside India from the close relatives, but minimum maturity period is 1 year. So maximum can be any year. So, but the money has to come into India in the form of foreign exchange through normal banking channels. Normal banking channel, the money can come into the business. And this can also be done by way of debit to NRE or FCNR account of the non-resident holder. So an individual is also permitted to borrow to the extent of 250,000 US dollars, close relatives with interest-free loan, and the minimum maturity period is 1 year, and the money has to come into India in normal banking business in the form of foreign exchange. Now, anybody wants to go and study outside India, that is also permitted. Suppose if any individual resident in India, he wants to go and study abroad, then for that also, he can borrow a loan to the extent not exceeding 250,000 US dollars or equivalent or any other amount as decided by the Reserve Bank of India from time to time. And only this can be used only for the purpose of educational fees. This can be used only for the purpose of educational fees. But this is subject to terms and conditions of RBI in consultation with Government of India. And now, lending in foreign currency by lending in foreign currency for external commercial borrowing by other than the AD, eligible entity to lend in foreign exchange to a foreign entity which has made a direct investment in India, they can do it. And foreign currency can be raised by Exim Bank, IDBI, IFCA, SIDBI or other institution in India. They can extend the loan into their constituents in India, and approval of central government is a must-one. Approval of central government is a must-one. And personal loans can be sanctioned by the Indian companies to their employees. Suppose if the employees they are situated outside India, personal loans can also be sanctioned by the person other than the authorized dealer to the employees. And a person resident in India, he can lend in foreign exchange to his importer customer for trade related purpose. For suppose if any importer customer he wants a loan, then this person can lend in the trade related purposes from his EFC account. EFC account means export earnest foreign currency account. That is also. And domestic fund are non-funded advance guaranteed by non-resident. And in INR, Indian rupee lending and borrowing between resident to resident, no, there is no restrictions. Anybody can do it. Provisions of FEMA is not applicable. Provisions of FEMA are not applicable. But if the non-resident gives guarantee to resident, then in case if the guarantee is invoked, then non-resident has to pay the, suppose if the guarantee is given by resident to non-resident to non-resident, and if the guarantee is invoked, then non-resident has to make the payout in rupee balance held in India, or remitting funds from abroad, or by way of debit to his FCNRB or NRE account with the account maintained with the authorized dealer in bank. It's very, very simple. If the guarantee is there, if guarantee is invoked, then the non-resident has to make the payment to the person against whom the guarantee is given. Then that payment can be made either in Indian rupee or by way of inward remittances or from the debit of the NRE account or FCNRB. The non-resident guarantor can enforce his right to recover the same from the resident borrower because he has given the guarantee. So non-resident borrower, he can do it. Then the general permission is available to resident as a principal debtor to make the payment to a person resident outside India who has met the liability under the guarantee. Liability by non-resident out of his funds remitted to India or debit by NRE account must be made by the credit to FCNRB. Suppose the debit is being made in FCNRB or NRE account by the non-resident, then credit has to come to the same account of the, that is to the FCNRB or NRE account or NRO account. Now, one wants to raise the credit. So he has already availed the limit and he wants to raise the limit. Yes, it is also possible. All borrowers eligible can raise the external commercial borrowings, that is for the debt through issue of capital market instruments. So they can raise the debt capital, that is capital, they can raise the capital by way of issue of debt instrument, that is that those instruments should be denominated in bonds and debentures, that is rupee denominated bonds and debentures, and this can be utilized for the purpose of credit investment. So to raise the credit also it is permitted. They can issue the debt instrument in the form of debentures and bonds. And who is giving the money? He is giving, it can be given by the eligible non-entities, non-resident entities, they can give, and multilateral financial institutions such as IFC and ADB, they are also eligible to give the enhancement, and regional financial institutions, they can also give. Government-owned financial institutions, they can also give the facility to the person if they want any credit enhancement. These persons, they can give the money to the person who need to enhance the credit facility, and it can also be done by the direct and indirect equity providers. So it's very, very simple. Authorized dealers and non-authorized, that is authorized dealers can also give, can also borrow, can also lend. Other than the authorized dealers also, they are also permitted to borrow. What are the rules and regulations? Everything is subject to Reserve Bank of India's guidelines. This is a basic that you should know, and for the detailed understanding, please refer FEMA 1999. And with this, I am before just saying sign off, I want to say that guarantee fee should not exceed 2% of the principal amount involved. So the maximum guarantee fee is only 2% of the amount involved. And I thank you very much for patient hearing of this with reference to borrowing and lending in foreign currency by authorized dealers or by a person other than the authorized dealers. And Nandri Vanakkam for patient hearing. And once again, we will meet in some other presentation. Once again, say Nandri Vanakkam.